Colin Kaepernick back in the NFL. It was about bringing light to this point, and that's what you guys have done. So he's saying, what is the problem with him going a different route because he's choosing not to go the route necessarily that you and Colin maybe have taken?
Us fighting for Colin to get a job is returning him to a status quo of being an employee. We didn't advocate for him to lose his job along the way. I think it's ludicrous that somebody who is like Stephen A., who's been so closely reporting on this, would make a statement like that. It's asinine.
All right, what's going on, everybody? Welcome into First Take. Those of you joining us here on ESPN2. Marcus Spears here with us. Max Kellerman's off today. Marcus, great to have you with us as always. Let's pick it up here, Stephen A. I want to start with you and let you address what's being said about you right there.
Well, first of all, let me remind everybody, and excuse my language in saying this because we're on PG airwaves, but I'm a grown-ass man. And the reason why I say that, because it's important, Marcus, for me to add this. I say that because I want Eric Reid to know I take no offense to what he said. Ladies and gentlemen, Eric Reid didn't insult me. He thought my comment was ludicrous. You see the difference, Marcus? You see how I can compartmentalize, which is something a whole bunch of people out there don't do. Oh, he went after you. Yep. No. He was addressing what the reporter told him I said. So Eric Reid was disagreeing with my point of view. He did not excoriate me. He did not character assassinate me. He thought my comment was ludicrous. I respect his right to feel that way. He's the one that's been taking the knee. He's the one that's been incredibly loyal to Colin Kaepernick. He's the one that's fighting that fight the way that he's fighting that fight. I got nothing but respect for the brother. I just disagree with the way that he has elected to handle this. And to reiterate what we said when we was on ESPN in the first hour, let me be very clear. I think right now a legitimate question could be asked. Eric Reid, why are you protesting? Before, initially with Colin Kaepernick, it was about racial oppression, racial inequality, and brutality on the part of police officers against unarmed black men. That's what it was about. Now it appears to be as if your protests are about Colin Kaepernick and the fact that he does not have a job. That's number one. Somebody needs to ask Eric Reid that question. Let him explain that. Number two, this notion that Colin Kaepernick can't have a job. Well, let's modify that a little bit. The Baltimore Ravens were interested in him until his lady went on Twitter and compared Ray Lewis and owner Steve Bisciotti to the characters of Samuel L. Jackson and Leonardo DiCaprio in the movie Django. Samuel L. Jackson playing the epitome of an Uncle Tom and Leonardo DiCaprio being a slave owner. Colin Kaepernick obviously co-signed that. That eliminated Baltimore. There was Miami with wearing a T-shirt supportive of Fidel Castro in an environment that houses over 30% of Miami's population. 30+% is of Cuban descent. Then there was Denver with John Elway. John Elway wanted a plan of action, wanted to make sure that you likely wasn't going to be do protesting. Obviously, Colin Kaepernick didn't co-sign to that. Pete Carroll, Seattle, same thing, according to the reports, because we haven't heard from Colin Kaepernick. And, oh, by the way, why have we not heard from Colin Kaepernick? Marcus Spears, last time I checked, he had filed a grievance against the National Football League, didn't use the Players Association, had his own attorneys, his own team. Ultimately, I do recall the news saying he reached a settlement, a monetary settlement. There has been projections out there, there have been reports out there saying it was in excess of $10 million. So Colin Kaepernick, we haven't heard from you.
Stephen,
we haven't seen you, but we know you got paid.
Can I ask you one question? Is that what people are saying because of the settlement? Is he not speaking because of the settlement, or is he not speaking because he doesn't want to ruffle feathers and wants to get a job? What is the deal with that?
No, I don't know what they're saying. I'm just telling you the kind of questions that his actions or lack thereof have provoked. That's what I'm saying.
Basically, I have the same questions too. Yeah.
Here's so all of them. It's made us. All I'm saying is that it's made us all inquisitive. So in the end, in closing, Marcus, all I'm trying to say is that you're going after Jay-Z because Jay-Z didn't do things that the way you want him to do, and you're accusing him of being a strategist and a capitalist as opposed to a rough rider like yourself. But Colin Kaepernick's gotten paid, settlement, and Eric Reid, although he's still taking a knee, last time I checked, is still collecting a check from the NFL himself.
Listen, however you want to define this, the one thing I will say about Jay-Z has been a catalyst for the movement of African Americans, for the progress of the culture. He's been one of the faces of that. So I would tell E. Reid to just give a pause and see what Jay-Z does with this opportunity to be in the NFL circles and sit at the table with a different voice, a different skin color, and maybe infuse some of the things that you are trying to get accomplished through him. That's number one. Let's have that conversation with Jay-Z and see what the progression is moving forward. Number two is this. When you get into the conversation about Colin Kaepernick and his job and all of that, I don't like it, Stephen A., and a lot of people don't like it, but this is the price you pay. Everybody that we've seen of African-American descent, black men, take a stand, have had to sacrifice something. Colin Kaepernick seems to have sacrificed his career in playing in the NFL. And to get to the settlement, everybody brings up the settlement. I don't necessarily look at the settlement like everybody else. I look at the settlement as Colin Kaepernick got what the league owed him after they released him based on his kneeling from the NFL. That is why Colin Kaepernick has been released. He's good enough to play quarterback in the NFL.
Well, let me also piggyback off of what you're alluding to with Jay-Z. Listen, again, I understand how the optics, him smiling with Roger Goodell and whatever, how that would look to some people. Jay-Z being the strategist and capitalist, the brilliant strategist and capitalist that he is, I understand how people can sit up there and look at him and say, excuse me, you didn't really articulate or highlight what your actual plan is.
Stephen,
we would like to know more. But I'm saying...
You have to that point, and I agree, you have to work with who's considered to be the enemy. There are pictures with Martin Luther King.
No, I'm not saying that.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is...
I agree with you. I agree with you, Marcus. That's not my point.
As far as the optics that people are talking about, I just wanted to address that, and I know where you're going. I'm going to let you. But as far as the optics, there are pictures with Martin Luther King sitting with Lyndon Baines Johnson. When we start talking about fighting for laws for African Americans to be able to vote in this country, you have to have a seat at the table. Regardless of how people perceive it, you have to have somebody that can infiltrate and have a seat at the table and have a real ear with the people that you're trying to get to change things. I'm sorry about that. Go ahead.
Exactly, absolutely. But that's exactly what the point that I was going to make. You got to be at the table to get things done. Do you obviously with the Players Coalition in the NFL and the money that they've been pouring into with what Jay-Z is capable of doing? We know that. But let's also get into the potential intent of Jay-Z as well. Who is his wife? Now, we talk about the phenomenal Beyonce in terms of her ability to perform and entertain. Do you know, and Molly, you know about this, her and Coachella, the Arts and Music Festival.
Yeah.
Remember when she had bands from historically black colleges and universities?
She was
and all
the
of this
first
stuff
black
that she
woman
has
to
done?
headline,
That's right. And what I'm saying to you is this. Excuse me, that's his wife. Talk about a conscientious individual. That would happen to be the marvelous Beyonce. Oh, one of his boys, Steve Stout, an incredible businessman, phenomenal at what he does. Also happens to be incredibly tight with Adam Silver, the NBA commissioner, for crying out loud. These are the people, Juan Perez, these are the people that Jay-Z surrounds himself with. Individuals who are brilliant, they're accomplished, their goals, their agenda, their conscience is in the right place. And all I'm saying is, knowing all of that, how come you can't step back and go like this? All right, my brother. Make sure you do it, because the same way you look at Stephen A. or Marcus Spears or Jalen Rose or anybody else, you'd be like, all right, don't let us down.
Yes.
Make sure you do this and that. As opposed to sitting there and saying to us, y'all ain't worth a damn before we even do anything.
And Stephen,
it makes no sense. It makes no sense.
To your point, and I know with you it's on 10. Man, we get so many Twitter mentions, so many Instagram. We got one side of people telling us from the African American culture, hey man, I appreciate you for being real. I appreciate you for saying things. And then you got a whole nother side. You're Uncle Tom if you don't agree with the level of thinking that they don't agree with. To me, this is playing out in real time, and it's got to be stopped. Eric Reid, Jay-Z, Colin Kaepernick, whoever needs to have a conversation to feel comfortable about what Jay-Z is doing, they need to have that conversation in private, have a conversation between men, and you can agree to disagree. Is nothing wrong with that. We tell people that all the time. But looking at this situation play out and transpire in the media with Eric Reid not liking what Jay-Z is doing, with Eric Reid talking about Stephen A. and what the comments he is, and I'm not opposed to Eric Reid's feelings. Like Stephen A. said, you have the right to feel how you want to feel about this situation. Now let's get to the business of what's going to actually take place. And the only way you get to the business of what's going to actually take place is have a conversation